What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Hope you had a wonderful and very blessed Easter weekend. Hope you had a great spring break time as parents. Your kids most likely had spring break either a couple weeks ago, last week, this week, somewhere right in this time period. And I hope you were able to step away for a little bit and relax and connect with your kids. That's kind of what being a parentpreneur is all about, is being a parent and an entrepreneur, and being able to do both and not sacrificing one for the other. All right, so I want to talk about, do you have to have a Facebook group? So backing up, and by the way, before I dive into the details here, if you would like help growing and scaling your business by implementing the hybrid acquisition system, you can go to scalewithmichael.com, schedule a quick call. So in a nutshell, what the hybrid acquisition system is leveraging both paid and organic traffic to grow your business. So we run paid ads, especially here at the beginning, to validate and prove the offer, to generate traction, to build an ecosystem, build a community. And then at the same time, the videos, the value that you are providing, you then turn around and optimize and put into YouTube for long-term organic traction. Again, that doesn't just build up overnight, the YouTube portion, but if you put out 2-3 videos a week consistently, a few months down the road, you're going to start gaining more and more traction. And the nice thing with YouTube, so the ads, once you turn it off, like they're off, they're done, they're cut off, right? So they work great. It's great to run paid ads. It can definitely get you results and kind of kickstart that process and allow you to quickly test and tweak and validate messages and offers and everything. And then YouTube's great because it's evergreen, meaning it's forever out there. So especially if you optimize your channel with keywords and everything, you start consistently putting videos out there and you start building an audience on YouTube that you then redirect into your group. So that's in a nutshell how the hybrid acquisition system works. If you want help implementing that in your business, here for the month of April, again, go to scalewithmichael.com, but we will actually help you build out your Facebook group or whatever it is, and I'll talk about that. That's what today's video is on. We'll create all the graphics for you. We'll create your lead magnet that you can use. We'll create the website, the opt-in pages and everything. We'll build out the whole system for you. We'll even create your YouTube channel. We'll help come up with your first 5 video ideas. We'll help optimize those videos, edit those videos. We'll do keywords and SEO and all that stuff. We'll create your channel. We'll optimize everything. So it's basically and we'll do all that within 30 days. And so it's really hey, if you like this idea of this hybrid acquisition system, leveraging paid traffic and organic and YouTube, and you really want to, kickstart it, we'll build everything out for you. And if you're interested in that, go to scalewithmichael.com. So then the question is, do you have to use a Facebook group? Does it have to be a Facebook group for your community building? And the answer is no. It doesn't have to be a Facebook group. But let me explain the kind of the criteria that we look for. And so that way, maybe Facebook's not your thing. Maybe you want to use something else, and that's totally cool, and that's perfectly fine. And I'm gonna walk through some of the different options. So let me hop over and share my iPad and just kind of draw out the criteria and then some options you may want to use if you're like, I don't really want to build a Facebook group. But again, it's all about building a community, and this does several things. One, it allows you to initially communicate with them when they join. It allows you to have interaction with them. It allows you to continue to follow up and nurture with them. And you use something like a community along with email, along with consistent content. And it really starts building out this ecosystem. And this is what I'm in the process of building out myself for the business growth for Parentpreneurs. So, okay, let me hop over to the iPad. All right, there we go. Actually, let me just... yeah, You guys don't necessarily need to see my face. I'll just do this. Okay, so if you are a peer, so here's you as the leader. And then I'm going to just say students. So student, 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 student. So criteria you really want to look for. Actually, you know what? Can I do... I'm sure there's a way. Oh, well, I'm not going to worry about it now. It's going to try to minimize my screen in the bottom right, but we'll just do this. So here's some of the criteria that you want to... This is what makes a community, right? This is why some platforms aren't actually a community, because they don't have every one of these elements, all right? So let's start diving into this. Obviously, you need to be able to communicate with your students. So if you think through different platforms, does it allow you to communicate with your students? So this needs to be you to student. Now, email does this, right? But email is not a community. And I'll explain why here. Okay, so the first thing is you got to be able to communicate to your students. Your students need to be able to communicate and interact back with you. Now you may say, well, that's great. And, with something like email, yes, you can email out to your students and they can hit reply and they can reply back to you, which is awesome. But there's another element to this that several platforms, quite a few platforms, don't allow or don't have the ability to do this directly. So you communicate with your students communicate with you, but for it to be a community, your students need to be able to communicate with each other without your involvement. And that's where something like a group, a community is very powerful, because as you grow, you'll realize that there's going to be more interactions, whether it's posts, whether it's comments. There's going to be more interactions among your students than you are directly involved with. So, student to student. So, this is why a Facebook group is so powerful. 1, it's free. 2, it allows the 3 communications. It allows you to do live videos. It allows you to post resources in the form of guides. All right, so that's definitely some of the strengths for Facebook. But that doesn't mean Facebook is your only option. I'm actually going to share with you a few others here. So what are some other options? Well, you could set up a Telegram. I think it's Telegram. You could set up a Reddit channel. You could use something like Mighty Networks. You could use something like School. So there's other options. You could use, potentially set up like a WhatsApp or Messenger group. There's pros and cons, obviously, to some of these. Some of these don't allow you to live stream. Some of them don't allow you to, post videos or certain types of contents or things like that. Some of them aren't easily searchable. Like, it's good if you can pin posts or pin or highlight certain things. But Facebook is not the only option. It is certainly one option, especially when you're getting started. It's a good option. Now, there's definitely some downsides with Facebook. even if you have a large group, like Facebook is always changing their algorithms. I mean, I'm part of, over 100 groups, and I only see messages from a couple of them. So you do have to be, a little more weary of that. Facebook's more distracting, right? Somebody may go into Facebook to go to your group and immediately get distracted. I know that's happened to me before. So I'm not saying Facebook is the end all be all. But you just need to kind of assess for yourself, like, do you want paid platforms? Do you want free platforms? Is it Circle? Maybe Circle. There's another one with like Mighty Networks that I've been in a group that's used it before. The downside with some of these though is you then have to really train your group that they need to check it regularly. I was part of a group and they had an app and everything, and it was great, but like I never trained myself to regularly go in and check the app and be very active on there. So once in a blue moon, like once a month, I'd remember to go check it, but I was not active. So that is one of the downside of some of these other options. Yes, Facebook can, get lost in the shuffle. It can be distracting. It can do, some of these things can occur. At the same time, though, it's free. It's easy to interact. It's easy to engage. When people join, you can message them. You can have conversations with them directly. So, again, if you're starting out, I do recommend something like Facebook. Start building that community, building that audience. I'll tell you, it is so much harder to sell your services, if not darn near, not impossible, but very hard when you don't have an audience. And building this community gives you that audience, that option. So again, it does not have to be Facebook. There are a few other options. Facebook is obviously the easiest just to launch and get set up. It doesn't take very long, and you can start driving people there. So it's certainly one I would recommend looking at. School looks like a cool option. It is paid. I believe it's like $100 per community per month. So Mighty Networks is paid. I mean, a lot of these others, or a few of these others, are paid groups. Again, you got to weigh for yourself, what are the trade-offs with free versus paid, or Facebook versus, a Reddit community or a LinkedIn group, or LinkedIn. Again, I had a LinkedIn group with a prior business, and people just aren't as active on LinkedIn as they are on Facebook. So again, you just got to kind of weigh the pros and cons. And the other thing I'd say is these platforms are always changing. So that's partly why you capture email, you capture other communications, ways to communicate with them. So that way, if something were to happen or shut down or whatever, you can make some posts, you can send some emails, you send some texts, and you can, you don't want to regularly do it, because anytime you make a big change like that, you're gonna lose people. A portion of them are not going to transfer over with you, but again, there's several options there. So it doesn't have to be Facebook, but do start, regardless of what business you're in, regardless of what you do. I highly recommend you start building that community, start building those followers. And again, with the community, you really want you to communicate with your students to be able to communicate with you. And ideally, what makes a community is your students communicate with each other without your involvement. That's where, yes, on Twitter, you can tweet at somebody, they can tweet back at you, and they can tag somebody on one of your posts to each other, but they can't communicate with each other with you know what I'm saying? That's not a community. So you definitely want to build a community. Again, if you would like help building out your Facebook group, the graphics, the everything, the setup, all of that, building out your YouTube channel, even the editing and helping you create your first 5 videos and everything, and making sure it's optimized with keywords and SEO and all that, as well as there's more involved, but that's kind of the kickstart part of the program, is getting all this set up for you within the first week or two. If you're interested in that, be sure to go to scalewithmichael.com, and Yeah. And so that's it for today's video. Hope you are doing awesome. And I will see you in the next one.